Nation, listen up. Today, a new chapter begins in Pittsburgh, a move that might look subtle at first glance, but carries far more meaning than it seems. A piece that could shift the balance of this offense and reignite a connection that once lit up some of the biggest moments in the NFL. The front office made its move strategic, precise, and full of intent for what's coming next. And now, the challenge is clear: turn potential into production, speed into impact, and experience into leadership. So, if you believe this could be the spark the Steelers' offense has been missing, hit that like button below, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Was this the right move? I want to hear from you, my friends. Was this the step toward the playoffs, or just another gamble? Let's talk in the comments. The Pittsburgh Steelers have officially added a new weapon to their offense, wide receiver Marquez Valdes-Scantling. And while at first glance this might look like a depth signing, the move actually says a lot about how Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin view this roster heading into the second half of the season. Valdes-Scantling, now 31, joins Pittsburgh after being released by San Francisco following a calf injury that, according to several inside sources, may have been more of a roster maneuver than a serious medical issue. He's healthy, available, and now reuniting with one of his closest football allies, quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Yes, Rodgers and MVS are back together, this time wearing black and gold. It's a connection that dates back years. Even when they played for different teams, the two trained together in the offseason. Rodgers trusted MVS's speed, size, and ability to stretch defenses vertically, something Pittsburgh's offense has desperately lacked at times this year. Standing at 6 feet 4 inches and weighing 206 pounds, Valdes-Scantling fits the Steelers' mold of a big-bodied, fast receiver who can win deep, and the stats back it up. During his time in Green Bay, particularly in 2020, he was among the league's most efficient deep threats, averaging more than 20 yards per reception and catching 6 touchdowns. Last season with the New Orleans Saints, he showed flashes of that same explosiveness despite limited opportunities. In only 8 games, MVS hauled in 19 passes for 411 yards and 4 touchdowns, numbers that would project to roughly 36 receptions for over 800 yards and 9 scores if stretched over a full 17-game schedule. That kind of output would absolutely satisfy the Steelers' needs for a reliable secondary receiver behind DK Metcalf, and it gives Rodgers another familiar target who already understands his timing, signals, and tendencies. Still, this move doesn't necessarily mean Valdes-Scantling becomes the number 2 wideout overnight. The Steelers remain committed to developing Calvin Austin III and rookie Roman Wilson, 2 players the coaching staff has praised for their progress and chemistry with Rodgers. Last week against the Packers, both contributed key plays, Calvin with precise route running and Wilson with his first career touchdown. The coaching staff has made it clear they see those two as foundational pieces for the future. Valdes-Scantling's signing simply provides insurance, a veteran who knows Rodgers' system and can step in immediately if an injury hits that top trio of receivers. And let's not overlook how perfectly he fits what the Steelers were actually looking for. According to league reports, Pittsburgh wanted a speedy deep threat, not a high-priced star, not a possession receiver, but someone who could take the top off defenses and open up space underneath for the tight ends and slot routes. That's precisely MVS's game. He's not known for elite route running or sticky hands, but when defenses cheat up to stop the short passing game with a run, he punishes them deep. For a quarterback like Rodgers, who thrives on reading coverage and adjusting pre-snap, having a familiar vertical option could reignite a passing attack that's been inconsistent so far. Beyond the on-field fit, this signing makes sense financially and strategically. The Steelers didn't have to give up a draft pick, something Khan and Tomlin have been adamant about preserving with next year's NFL draft being hosted in Pittsburgh. The team currently holds 12 draft picks, and the front office clearly wants to enter that event with as much capital as possible. Bringing in a proven veteran at no draft cost checks all the boxes: depth, chemistry, experience, and financial prudence. MVS also brings something that can't be measured on a stat sheet: postseason experience. He's been there, done that, and even caught touchdowns in Super Bowls as a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. For a team that still believes it can make a deep playoff run, having someone who's performed under that kind of pressure matters. He's seen the bright lights, the media frenzy, and the weight of championship expectations. That kind of composure can be contagious in a locker room that's still developing its offensive identity around Rodgers and this new receiving core. So when you step back, the picture becomes clearer. This wasn't about making a splash. It was about making sense. The Steelers needed insurance, speed, and experience, and they found all three in Valdes-Scantling. Whether he ends up being just a situational deep threat or a late-season difference maker will depend on how he and Rodgers rekindle rekindle that chemistry that once lit up defenses across the NFC. Because if we're being honest, this signing feels like a classic Steelers move, practical, low risk, and rooted in trust rather than flash. Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin have made it clear they believe in the group they already have. Calvin Austin III's route precision, Roman Wilson's growing confidence, and DK Metcalf's physical dominance are the pillars they want to build around. Bringing in a veteran like Marquez Valdes-Scantling isn't about replacing anyone, it's about reinforcing what's already there. And there's something else worth pointing out. Chemistry with Aaron Rodgers isn't built overnight. His system is full of subtle hand signals, audibles, and quick pre-snap adjustments that many new receivers struggle to grasp. That's why this signing makes perfect sense. MVS already speaks the language. He knows when Rodgers gives that subtle glance or finger twitch, it's not random, it's a signal to go deep, to change the route, to attack a weakness he's just read in the defense. You can't teach that in a week of practice. That's trust built over years of reps and off-season workouts, from Malibu throwing sessions to late-night film studies. When you add that kind of familiarity to a locker room trying to find consistency, it can stabilize everything. Think about the timing of it. Coming off a game where the offense flashed potential but still lacked rhythm, this move feels like the front office saying, "We're not panicking, we're preparing." Rodgers now gets a receiver who can stretch the field, which in turn opens up space for Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, and Darnell Washington to work the middle. That's balance. That's the kind of adjustment championship caliber teams make quietly, not with headlines, but with precision. Now, that's not to say there aren't valid concerns. MVS is 31. He's had his share of drops, and consistency has never been his trademark. Some fans will look at this and think, we needed a true number 2, not another role player, and that's fair. But what this front office seems to understand is that football isn't Madden. You can't just plug in a star receiver and expect chemistry to appear overnight. Bringing in someone like Chris Olave or Calvin Ridley might sound exciting, but it could also disrupt the balance of touches, the locker room dynamic, and even Rodgers' rhythm. Pittsburgh's offense isn't built around one alpha receiver, it's built around distribution and adaptability. Rodgers isn't the kind of quarterback who locks onto one guy every drive. He's surgical, dissecting coverages and finding the open man based on leverage. That's exactly why MVS's role could quietly become essential. When defenses cheat to take away the short game, when safeties creep into the box to stop Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, MVS can make them pay deep. And that alone can change the way teams defend Pittsburgh. You also can't overlook what this means for the team's confidence heading into the stretch run. Adding a Super Bowl champion, someone who's been in those big moments, sends a message. This team believes it can compete now. Valdes-Scantling has caught touchdowns in playoff games, in Super Bowls, in hostile environments. He's seen what it takes. Having that presence in a young receiver room can be just as valuable as any stat line. And it's interesting, isn't it, how Omar Khan continues to find ways to improve the roster without mortgaging the future. No draft pick compensation, no heavy contract, just a smart, surgical signing that fills a need and preserves flexibility. Remember, next year's draft will be in Pittsburgh. The front office wants to walk into that event loaded with picks, ready to build around the core that's already forming. Moves like this, quiet but calculated, are how you build a roster that lasts. The more you think about it, the more it feels like Pittsburgh is slowly redefining its identity on offense. Less about star power, more about trust, timing, and versatility. And in that kind of system, a player like Valdes-Scantling could thrive. He doesn't need 100 catches to make an impact. He just needs 3 or 4 plays a game where his speed forces defenses to respect the deep threat, because when that happens, everything underneath becomes easier. So now the question is simple, will this be another mid-season move that fades into the background, or will it be the spark that finally unlocks the full potential of this offense? Steelers Nation, what do you think? Is this the kind of calculated addition that makes a difference down the stretch, or should Khan still be looking for one more big move before the deadline? Let me know down below. And if you want to stay updated on every twist of this story, make sure you're subscribed, drop a like, and check out the next video on the screen for full analysis of how Rodgers and MVS are already working together at practice. Because make no mistake, this move isn't just about depth or familiarity, it's about timing. The Steelers made this signing at a point in the season where the offense is still finding its rhythm, where Aaron Rodgers is beginning to settle into Matt Canada's modified system, and where every rep in practice now counts double. Adding a receiver who can immediately sync up with Rodgers changes the pace of that transition. It shortens the learning curve. It means Rodgers doesn't have to spend weeks teaching another newcomer how to read his signals. He already has someone who knows the rhythm of his throws, the subtle timing of his pump fakes, the exact moment to break off a route and go vertical. That kind of seamless fit can't be overstated. You could feel it already in the early reps this week. Rodgers taking deep shots during team drills, testing MVS's legs, re-establishing that trust they had in Green Bay. There's a certain body language they share that's hard to fake. Rodgers gives that slight nod, the safety bites up, and suddenly MVS is streaking downfield, catching a perfectly dropped ball in stride. That's not practice chemistry, that's muscle memory. And while Steelers fans have every right to be cautious, after all, we've seen veteran additions flame out before, this one feels a bit different, because for once, the Steelers aren't scrambling to fill a hole. They're adding a piece to strengthen what's already working. Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson continue to grow every week. DK Metcalf remains the focal point of this receiving core. The tight ends have been more active. Najee Harris has looked better as the offensive line finds stability. The pieces are there. MVS is just that extra gear that could tilt a few drives from 3 points to 6. The real intrigue, though, is how this changes defensive game plans. Every time MVS lines up wide, safeties are going to have to make a choice, respect his speed and play deep, or gamble and risk giving up a 60-yard touchdown. And when you have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, those gambles get punished. It's not about volume, it's about gravity. MVS may only get 4 or 5 targets a game, but every route he runs pulls a safety out of position, creates windows for Metcalf on the boundary, or frees up the middle for Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth. That's the kind of invisible value that doesn't show up in the box score but changes everything for a quarterback who thrives on mismatches. But there's also a psychological aspect here. For the locker room, adding a Super Bowl champion, someone who's shared huddles with Rodgers under pressure, who's played in games that define legacies, sends a message. The organization isn't waiting for next year. They're trying to win now. MVS brings that calm, that experience of knowing what it takes when the moment gets big. And for a young receiver group like Pittsburgh's, having that veteran in the room to show how to prepare, how to study, how to stay focused through